Lights up!
Everybody, and welcome to our latest episode of Lights Up. I'm joined today by three members of My Fair Lady cast, James, Alys and Jim. Now everybody at PTC knows Jim because he's just directed the sold out show Apologia. Huge round of applause for that, and it was brilliant. And we have two new people with us, James and Alys, both first timers to PTC. A very warm welcome. How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you. Very well, thank you.
Now James, you're playing Higgins.
Yes.
And Alys, no surprises, you're playing Eliza. I mean, if I turned around and said Colonel Pickering, that would be hilarious, but sadly
Very progressive.
Not. Exactly. So how's it all going? James, tell me, first time at PTC, are we enjoying our experience? You can't really say no, I know.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Everyone has been incredibly welcoming, friendly. The show itself is coming together nicely. We're 2.5 weeks out. Feels like we need to do it a bit longer, but you know, we'll be fine. We'll be good.
But that's always the same for any show, and I'm sure we're all seasoned professionals.
Yeah,
and we know that 2.5 weeks ago, there's always a mild state of panic.
Yes, I think so.
And then come Monday, i.e. tomorrow, you'll be going, oh, this is going to be amazing. Everyone knows their lines, of course they do, and their dance steps, all good in the hood. Alys, Eliza, what an iconic part to play. How excited are you?
It's such a privilege, not only for My Fair Lady to be my first play, but to be cast as Eliza in my first play. Having not done acting since I was at school, it's a very big role to step into after a sort of long hiatus, you might call it. But even just joining PTC, I've been so surprised, I guess, it's probably a bad thing, but how the sense of community, everyone is just equally as keen to step up and help, and it truly is an ensemble play, and I think Tom has directed it so it has that effect and it has that joy of being in it with everyone.
Because it's quite a big cast. So there's 16 of you?
Yes.
Yeah? So, and do people double up in the ensemble so they're in every sort of chorus scene?
Lots of double ups, lots of very quick changes for the maids, I believe.
So from maids to cockneys, or maybe even cockney maids.
It's true. I think we have a Queen of Transylvania to a maid in one scene change, so that'll be quite interesting. But
Brilliant. And now Jim, returning to the stage, as I just said after you're directing Apologia, as Freddie.
That's right.
Oh, lovely little Freddie. Who doesn't love Freddie? Now, how has Freddie sort of transformed into the 21st century, do we think?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, the thing that I love about Freddie is he, for people who don't know, he is very much a member of high society, polite society, but he meets Eliza. He's quite smitten straight away. This is in a very public event. But when he sees her recently acquired elocution and etiquette fail, that's when he is completely smitten, completely head over heels for her. So I think what you get there is that Freddie actually falls for the real Eliza. He's basically a posh boy who likes a bit of rough. As far as modernising him, it's not a question of modernising Freddie. I think the entire modernising seems like such a loaded word, but the interpretations within this story, I mean, there's so many different ways you can look at it as far as the gender politics and the behaviour of the men. I think it's a real men as boys kind of show, and the story from the beginning to the end really is Eliza's story, and it's about the decisions she makes and the power plays that she makes throughout.
Well, exactly. And I was going to say, now, I'm assuming, of course, dear listener, that everybody knows the story of My Fair Lady because it's based on George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. But for those people that don't, maybe, James, if you just give us a quick synopsis.
Do you
feel like you're a sort of English A-level here?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, in very general terms, you know, at the start of the play, Henry Higgins is in Covent Garden taking down notes of interesting accents. He's a linguist. He encounters Eliza, who is a flower girl in Covent Garden. The conversation kicks off about whether or not you could change Eliza's accent into something which would be able to allow her to have access into high society.
And can I just interject, now do we think that he takes on that challenge from Pickering just purely for his own arrogance, or do we think he actually is that good that he would be able to take any accent? And
I think we're inclined to believe that Higgins knows his stuff.
Right.
And I think one of the nice things about the play is it's not just a straightforward bad man manipulating poor vulnerable girl. You know, she's a participant in the whole process as well. She's active and engaged. She actually goes to him to say, look, you said in Covent Garden the other night that you could help me speak like a duchess and get a job in a flower shop. Her idea is getting a job in a flower shop on Tottenham Court Road rather than having to sell flowers on the street in very practical terms. So he takes that on. By the end of the play, he has given her kind of greater agency by his kind of skills. So I think we can see that Higgins knows his stuff,
yes.
but we also can see that he's kind of quite full of him. He's full of himself. He's kind of blown up.
He's quite bombastic, isn't he, as a character?
You know.
So.
He's also a confirmed bachelor, so doesn't have the improving addition of a woman in his life at any point, and indeed sings a song about the fact that he would never allow a woman in his life, whilst spending most of the thing kind of sort of falling in love with Eliza, we think. We don't really know.
This is the interesting dichotomy, isn't it? Because, of course, as you rightly said, it is Eliza's story. And so your ambition as a flower girl is to have your own shop on Tottenham Court Road, which we have to remember in Victorian, or was it Edwardian England when this was written?
Edwardian England.
Thank you very much. That would have been a pinnacle of her career. She would have been a businesswoman as a result, which is huge. So your story, as James rightly said, you go to Higgins and say, hold on a minute, I heard you last night saying you could improve my voice, which improves my aspirations in life. So tell me though, without a spoiler alert to those who don't know it, how have you reconciled that at the end of the play?
I think she has quite good boundaries that she wants to set. In one of the penultimate scenes, she doesn't demand love and gestures from neither of the men that she hangs around with. She would prefer, well, firstly, kindness, I think, from Higgins. I think she feels underappreciated. Passed over is her phrase that she uses. And I think what you were saying earlier about it's not just about a man picking up a vulnerable girl off the street and training her. She has spirit. She is, as you say, she is the one who goes over. She sets boundaries. She says, no, you won't treat me like this. I know I'm going to leave. She threatens to leave so many times because he says inappropriate things and references prostitution. And she's a very proud woman. At the beginning of the play, she's incredibly worried about her status as being seen as a beggar, because at the time begging was illegal. So she's very much like, no, you will take the flower off me and you will buy it off me. I'm not going to take just money off you as like I'm some common beggar on the street, because then I won't have a life. So she has a real vision, and I respect her for that. She's a real go-sister.
It's quite modern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think the tendency is to look at Eliza as a victim.
As a doll.
And Higgins as a bully or a manipulator. But I think what you're saying is actually, no, she makes her own decisions.
She's
and
very
she knows
calculated.
what she wants.
And she leaves Higgins as soon as she understands that, yes, he's done the most for me. We've had the most out of this business transaction. I've learned everything I need to know. But you're not adding anything to my life. So I'm going to go off and marry Freddie. Maybe.
And do you think they'd be happy? Maybe. Freddie and Eliza? I mean, I love the fact that you said, he actually falls in love with the real Eliza.
Yeah, I think Freddie would like to think that they would be. The greater question there, I think we're unsure. Little letting people in behind the scenes at the moment. We haven't actually decided on how the final scene is going to play, because exactly. So people listening won't know exactly how it's going to end. We don't at this point, because it will be based on a sequence of events that we're still examining. I had this thought. I don't know if this is dreadfully pretentious and not my place as not the director of this show, but I was thinking about the title, My Fair Lady. Obviously Eliza is the titular fair lady, but who is the my referring to?
Ooh, yes.
And, well, there's obvious, you can go with Higgins, and then there's other men in her life that would like to claim ownership, her father Alfie, and of course Freddie. But actually I think the my could refer to Eliza, and it's her finding herself throughout this whole story. And that, I think, is actually more interesting than who does she pick.
I think you're absolutely right. Or it could be My Fair Lady as the...
We all have a fair lady within us.
We do. Oh, particularly James, I've heard.
On a good day, perhaps. It is worth saying, though, that it is very funny.
I was going to say, now we need to talk about the humor.
Yes. I mean, on one level, it is a searing indictment of misogyny in sort of 1930s England. But on the other hand, it's a very funny musical with fabulous songs. It's a great night out, and in rehearsing it, we have made ourselves laugh all the way through it, and in all sorts of odd places and sometimes in the wrong places. But it is genuinely very good, and the songs are so strong.
Well, the
book
songs
is
are
so
iconic,
strong.
aren't they? I mean, everybody knows.
And they're they're believably English, which, given that the musical was written by Americans, is surprising.
That is actually.
Because it had its first run in Broadway.
It's only "Don't Sing a Fall."
That's
the only
mentioning
bit
a fall. That's the only part where they
As
slip
like
up.
seasons, you mean
Yes.
autumn. We hate that, don't we?
Yeah, it's the same today.
Sorry, American listener, but seriously, why is it a fall? I don't understand.
But
There's
they've
quite
captured...
a rude joke about Americans not using English in one of the songs.
They've really
as well,
captured the essences of what it is to be English and how we have our quirks and how we view certain types of foreigners. Unquote, unquote.
So we have singing, we all know that. We have dancing, choreographed by the amazing Lyndall. Now, must have the patience of a saint. Because there's a lot of you. I'm sure we have a mixed ability of dancers, I think I shall say in the kindest way. So, are we enjoying it? Is it...
I mean, put it this way, I dance like a professor of linguistics,
Brilliant.
which is appropriate for this, perfectly cast for this part.
Yes.
You studied it hard, didn't you, to make sure
some of my
that
colleagues here
believable?
dance far more elegantly than I do. And some of the set pieces with the kind of ensemble are really lovely. They kind of give everything a nice bounce and energy, which is beautiful. I think the movements will work.
I think we also have to give a shout out to Richard, who's our musical director, who's been absolutely incredible. Just in articulating what is required from very, very complicated harmonies, famously complicated, and then also just his own musicianship and the way he's putting it together and the way he's accommodated the kind of backing tracks that he's provided us to practice with. It's just made it much, much easier. And let's be honest, this is the first established musical that PTC has done in certainly the 9 years I've been here.
And I joined in 2016, so we've never done one before. I do know that we did do Charlie Brown, which I don't know when that was done, but
before my time.
But obviously Richard Campbell, who is the MD for My Fair Lady, for those of you who are astute enough would have recognised that name, of course, from Dick Whittington last year, the Panto, and he was sublime. Honestly, he would have little theme tunes for each character he would just make up. Wow. He is a genius. So we have massively lucked out in getting Richard. So we are in for great things, dear listener, aren't we? I can't wait. So 2.5 weeks.
Don't say it.
It's one of my favourite things I say every podcast episode. And then I'm looking at the cars going,
I'd like to step in there because for listeners who've been here a while, that just can't freak me out ever since I was involved in School for Scandal a few years back, which was literally, I think, a 3 or 4 week rehearsal period outdoors during COVID. But we've got 2.5 weeks to go. We've had 3 full runs of the show already during the rehearsal process.
Kudos
Tom is
to you,
very
my
keen on this idea of a minimum viable product, which he's been working on. So, I mean, I came in from doing Apologia, I think 3 or 4 weeks into the process, and then later that week we did a run. The skeleton has been there for a long time, and we're just building the flesh now. I've no anxiety about getting ready.
Yeah,
in time.
it's about
lovely.
There are lots of lovely little moments we know will be great, and it's just about getting the timing of them right. It's getting the sort of just getting the business right. But it is. Jim's absolutely right. We're in that nice stage now where we do know our lines, we do know our songs, we know where we are, we know where we're supposed to stand, and now it's about just
about really leaning into your character even more now that you're not worried about what you're saying when you're meant to say it. And that's what I'm so excited for, is the first night, and then you just capture that adrenaline and you can just do anything with it and carve your own trench of influence for the audience. I'm so excited for that. And
from an audience point of view, when you see a cast of any play that are so easy and familiar with what they're doing, you without sounding too pretentious, you forget that that it's a play.
Yes.
You really get invested in what's
we
happening.
will be transporting people back to Edwardian England in a real and metaphorical sense. And what a better way to start the Christmas season?
I know.
Just running into Christmas, a musical only at the bottom of the road. You don't have to worry about going into the West End on a train.
And it warms your cockles, doesn't it, love?
Brilliant. It's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Lovely,
so
please.
If you don't buy a ticket, you will regret it for the rest of your life.
Wow, that's
for the rest of, and tickets are selling like crazy.
They
absolutely like crazy. I've got half of Wales coming down to see me.
Only half. Where's the other one?
I know. I don't know what the other half think they're doing. They've all made excuses.
And he's absolutely right, dear listener. And in case it hasn't been committed to your memory, you can get tickets via the website www.putneyartstheatre.org.uk, and they are really selling it. And I know you always think I always say this. I know I do, but it happens to be true. And we, Amadeus, we had 80% capacity for the audience. We sold out 3 of the 6 productions. So enjoy today, enjoy the rest of your rehearsals, and thank you very much for dropping in and having a chat.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Lovely, thank you very
It was
much.
a pleasure.
This is a real Putney Theatre Company production. Do share the podcast with your friends and take a look at our website, searching online for the Putney Theatre Company. So that's it for now. See you next time.